intersections, right? We know this. It is Friday. A lot of people are starting to get and prepare for that 4-day Gov Guam workday, right? I do see mild congestion at the airport heading down towards Route 1, making your left or right turn. Shouldn't be too much trouble. I know that there is some construction efforts right around the Guam Regional Medical City. So just be aware of that. Shouldn't affect your travels on the roadways, though. It looks like more on the shoulder. And so, once again, helping you move forward on this Friday afternoon is Guam Auto Spot. Schedule that test drive today. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
KGUM-FM, Dedido, the talk of Guam. This is Wave 105.1 FM, a Glimpses media radio station.
At GTA, there's no fine print favorites, no new customers only, no almost everyone, because everyone gets our best deal. Right now, sign up for any unlimited plan and get up to $400 off a premium smartphone. Yep, same deal, same savings. No hoops, no hassle. Switch, upgrade, or start fresh. No matter how you join, you win. Come into GTA today because the best deal, it's for everyone. Terms and conditions apply. GTA, we start with you.
My name is Erica, and my son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kason is still here.
Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at subwaypacific.com for pickup or delivery. Online ordering at subwaypacific.com is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
When families feel safe, communities grow stronger. Senator Chris Duenas passed the Malik Act to put more officers on our streets and confront the meth crisis hurting too many of our people. He led efforts to expand affordable housing through the additional dwelling unit and advanced nitrate bills. And now he is authoring his second balanced budget that protect essential services while supporting private sector jobs. Steady leadership, real results. Re-elect Chris Duenas. He's focused, balanced, and ready.
I'm Chris Duenas, and I approve this message.
The road to Adelup is here, and this time we spoke with Democrat candidates, Senator Torius Terlahi and Senator Sabina Perez. Here is your opportunity to hear how they plan to govern Guam. Watch the conversation on Wave 105's YouTube channel, dated May 28th. This is a Glimpses of Guam radio station.
To the show, 4:06 in the afternoon. We are KGUM FM, Dedido, Guam. This is the BrightSide, right here on Wave 105. Let's bring up the host, Mr. Pauly Suba.
And we do want to thank our sponsors, MicroPack for sound tech and everything in between. Think MicroPack. Subway, you got to refresh to be fresh. Triple J Ford. Get that free $500 gas card when you drive home with a new Ford truck. Visit triplejguam.com. Get pre-approved instantly. GTA, we start with you. And Chili's Grill and Bar. Chili's, more life, great food, and memories happen here. And so right now, we are going to pivot and bring you another Beyond the Ballot segment. And so with us today is a candidate on the Democrat side, Donna Muñoz-Canata. Half a day.
Half a day, Pauly.
Half a day. And Mr. Gregorio Calvo on the Republican side. Half a day, senor.
Half a day, Pauly.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming in.
Welcome.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to share a little bit about your background first, if that's okay. Yeah.
Perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll go with you.
To the people of Guam, my name is Donna Muñoz-Canata. And I do have to say for the record, because I heard it again today, I am the identical twin sister of Senator Tina Muñoz-Barnes. So just for the record, because there's a lot of people out there that don't know that Tina and I have been twins for the last 63 and a half years. So,
All your lives.
All our lives. She's my roommate, my best friend. And so I have to say that.
Yeah.
And I'm the daughter of Bill and Ann Munya. We come from a family of 9, 2 sets of twins. I'm familiar in Inda, Albing, and most especially my Punko family, my Munya family. And I'm married to John Kanata, they also known as JQ. I have 4 beautiful children, 2 that I gave birth to and 2 that I brought up and reared. And I have 11 grandchildren. I've been in the sales and marketing business for the last 42 years, and I have this can-do attitude. So I'm here to help serve the people of Guam and move our island forward.
You mentored so many people, too, throughout
Yes.
those years, right?
Yes, and still mentoring.
Right.
And still mentoring.
Yeah,
I still have
absolutely.
4... I'm fostering right now 4 kids at home.
Wow.
And it's amazing. You know, God sends them to me. I just do his work. And he gives me all the courage and the resources and just being who we are to give back. Same as my father, my grandfather, and my parents. We were really lucky to have such amazing parents and role models. You know, the real Inafa Maulik way of growing up was what my parents taught us. So
Understood.
yeah, so I'm here.
Thank you for
I
coming.
never thought I was going to do this.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Senor Gregorio Calvo, can you share with our audience your background?
Okay, and first of all, Pauly, thank you for the invitation through Ryan, of course, as well. And really honored to be here with right side by side with Donna. I've known the Munya family a long time, my wife and I. We've known the mom when she was ushering us into faith-based visits at the hospital way back.
Yes,
And of
thank you,
course,
thank you.
Bill, I'll tell you, tremendous
Thank you.
a leader in the music industry, and then just a lot of things Bill and I went through, and really good. So really honored to be here. And I have to say this, on the same side as Donna, on the pro-life issue. So
Yes,
thank
we are.
So I'm honored. So first of all, I'm Gregorio Salas Calvo. Was born in the village of Jigo, 79 years of age, and the oldest of 13 children. And way back, we didn't think of it at that time, but over the years we began to say, thank God that mom and dad were pro-life, the 13 of us. And so just over the years, worked in the legislature, worked in government all these years, and got retired from government Guam, did some consulting work, private sector, just consulting, just research and some marketing. And just over the last 2-3 years, just having the burden for standing up for the unborn baby in the womb. And so just over the years, and then just in the last 8-9 months, I needed to do something. So I'm standing up and looking forward as well. Lord willing, Talina, former Senator Talina Nelson is back on island. She was the one who introduced the Heartbeat Act bill. It got passed and unfortunately was vetoed. But I'll tell you, I've not seen the senator when she got back, but I'm rooting for her as well. Of course, you have to be after the primary, and then we'll take it from there. But Greg Kell running on the Republican side of in the primary. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here as well. I kind of wanted to touch first on your passions. Was there a specific moment that you said, you know what, I'm running for the 39th Guam legislature?
Well, Tina, my twin sister, said to me, you know, Donna, I've tried selling cars twice already. I've tried your arena. Now it's your turn. And I thought about it. You know, I said, if I wanted to lead by example, I should throw my hat in the arena. And there's still a lot of issues that we need to take care of on Guam, and I want to be part of the solution to move Guam forward. So I've got a lot of, I think, new, fresh ideas.
Sure.
And being in the business community and standing up a business and helping my son stand up a business, I think there's just so much I have to offer. I told my son, okay, I'm retiring, right? And he said, Mom, okay, you're retired, but come back to work on Monday, okay, at 9? You're retired, but come back to work. I said, aye, my boy. And then when the issue was, did you Donna, we need some really good candidates and, people that can help move Guam forward. I went, you know what? I need to put my money where my mouth is. I need to lead by example. And this is one of the ways that I can actually do it so that the whole island of Guam gets to see what we're able to do. And this thing about you can't do it. With God, there's nothing you cannot do. With God, you can do everything, just God willing. So I prayed about it, and that's one of the other reasons why I'm here. Is there's so much that we, together. There's so much that we can do together, but if it has to start with me. So that was one of the reasons why. And of course, Tina said to me, stop, standing on the sidelines. I said, Tina, I sit on 5-6 boards, active boards, Tina. I'm on the Bill Muñoz Foundation, the Public Defender, the Elderly Justice Center, the Department of Labor Workforce Board.
Sure.
The Bill Muñoz Foundation is my passion. I've actually sat on that board, and we're active for the last 30 years. We just did the Sunoco relief. We did the Ulithi relief. We did trash-a-thons, and the kids, we're getting the kids involved. And I sit on the TEC, the Tourism Educational Council, that oversee the wave clubs on Guam, and I'd like to see that in the back of you, Wave. So I sit on that board. I actually chair that board. So, and there's so much that, Tina said to me, Don, but that's still sitting on the sidelines. You need to get up and, you're one of the ones that can get up and move this island forward. And I said, you know what, you're right. I do have a lot to offer. And, being retired, Derek says I'm retired, but I don't think he wants me to retire. So I think I can do both, Okay. So I want to be able to show our people of Guam that each and every one of us has, even if it's just a little bit, to get back. We can get back.
Okay. And Senor, I wanted to ask you the same thing. I don't want to assume that it was something like what you shared earlier, that unfortunately a bill that was very important to you was vetoed. Is that when you said, you know what, I need to also put myself in this position, understanding that you've done so much public service already as a Gov Guam retiree?
Well, with the it started, I guess, just a little bit before that, but at that during the public hearing for that bill, I testified, and it was amazing. We were given 5 minutes, and I want you to know, 26 years in the legislature, 5 minutes is not enough. So anyway, I pleaded to just finish what I was going to say, and I had to quickly, I said, and I just felt in my heart, I need to keep coming back. So I was looking for another opportunity in the for the bill again to be reintroduced, and it didn't materialize. And of course, doing some internal lobbying, and we're searching for the conscience also of the Republican Party, because in the National Republican National Committee 2 years ago, a whole segment of the pro-life statements were removed. So we're down to 2 sentences. And I still can't get to the bottom of it. How did it get out? So within the Republican Central Committee, I've been bringing it up, and this last 2 years has been of very little effect. And the forum's still there. I thank God for that. But I just sense that I'm going to have to be a little bit more active. Okay, what if I move in line with the other forums that are available? As a candidate, and then just take it from there. Just take it from there, one day at a time.
Sure.
And let's really mean something as a community. And like Donna and I, when you think of it, here's the kind of commitment that I've seen with her, with Senator Tina, as well. I serve on the same board, Gomamami, with her. That kind of passion that is there, was these two, this family. I've walked the talk, and I think that's what we have to do. What is it that is in our purpose in life? Well, let us come out and say something, and then do something.
Understood. Okay. And you're sharing how you've POCSID, right? And you have foster children. There is a crisis, right?
Yes, my parents POCSID. Besides our 35 siblings from the island of Ulithi, we also have other family members that my parents have raised. There's like maybe 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, once you're part of our family, you're stuck with us. Right. So, and then every one of my siblings all have a Puksai child, one way or another. And, my friend Heidi used to kid with us that Bill Muñoz's house is the first harvest house on Guam because he's got all these kids and godkids and stuff like that. And my mom would always say, William, where are we going to get the funds to take care of all these kids? And my father would say to my mom, and with all that praying you do, don't worry, it's going to come. And my grandfather was the same way. My grandparents were the same way. Right. All of us. And we as a foundation, the Bill Muñoz Foundation, has helped Harvest House. It's sad to say that, and even with the Elderly Justice Center and the Civil Law Center, we've had to do things that it's not known to us as being chamorros, that anaphomalic attitude that, kids are abandoned. And when you see them, they're newborns. They're little kids. They're 8 years old. Tina's new grandson, Liam. Oh my God, he's such a joy. And they just were able to adopt Liam, but it took a while. And maybe there's something that we can do to change the process, because there are a lot of people who want to give, but some of them don't even know where to start. Sure. My dad's just one of those. My parents are one of those people like, come on in, I don't think I've ever known my dad or my mom to turn any child away, regardless. We've seen them all, different attitudes, different backgrounds. But my dad always says, those are God's kids. We need to take care of them. And somehow or another, my mom's convinced all of us that when they come our way, it's being sent to you, maybe, we're just somebody's guardian angel, all of us have a purpose. And so for my parents, that's what they taught us. And, my husband's like, I was like, sometimes, wait, I need to call my husband and tell him that I'm bringing home 4 kids, okay? And he's like, do I get to see what they look like since they're going to be part of our family? And of course, John's always so supportive and stuff like that. But it's a family thing. When they say that saying, it takes a village, right? It takes a village to raise all these kids. But it has to start with us. We have to get back to the basics, right? And we got to start teaching our kids all of this stuff. And that's another reason why, we have for so long have gotten kind of maybe lost in social media, all the other, what do you call the TikTok, Instagram, all of that stuff. Though we use it for advertising and stuff like that, our kids are lost in it. And if we just get back to the basics on starting our kids to make them understand that in our families, right? Even just as much as not putting a television in your living room and dining room and family room. And my husband said to me, after our renovations, hon, can I put a big TV over there? I went, absolutely not. And he goes, why? And I said, because in this family room and living room, we actually sit and have conversations. We actually sit. And now he says to the girl, ladies, come out here. We need to talk and we need to discuss, what our plans are, where we're going and stuff like that. How are you handling school and, how you doing in school and all that. It's actually a place in our home, not just the kitchen table or the dining room table, but also our family room and our living room. It becomes a place where we actually tell children, we love you, but we have expectations. And if you're going to be afforded this kind of life, we need something in return as well. My parents always taught us, you have to give back, and it starts with us. And so, like I said, I'm fortunate, and you know that we have the passion. My twin sister's been doing it for the last 24 years. And I actually said to myself, God willing, if this is the path you want me to take, then here I am. Here I am to help move the island forward. And thank you for asking about that, because it's such a sensitive subject for all of us here. Right. And there are families out there who want to. There's a lot of military families as well. But what do you call that? The red tape that goes in that's involved
Is
in
that
actually.
something that you want
Oh
to
yes,
assist in?
yes. You know, that's something I want to work on too, to help take these kids. I actually personally know of a military family that actually begged to take the child. I mean, she was so involved with and they became my good
tough.
friend, and they couldn't take the child because
The goal is to keep the
Yeah.
families
so
together.
Tina and I might differ in that a little because Tina believes that the right of the parents, the biological parents,
Right.
you know, once they get, you know, grounded back again into society and they're doing good,
Right.
then the child should go back. And I have nothing against that. But they are kids that really need all that loving care and attention. And there's nowhere for it. It really is tough, Pauly. And
I
I
get it.
know it. I felt it. And, you know, God must have a plan for Harvest Home.
There's no easy answer, right?
There's no easy answer, but they do a lot. And all of us, if just imagine, when I first started helping Harvest, or our community, the Bill Munoz Foundation started to help Harvest House, there were only like maybe 189 to 206 kids that were in there. Now they're almost up to 1,000. And if Bethany's listening, she could probably call you and tell you it's
sure.
it's gotten bigger. But the community needs to know that that issue is not being addressed. I mean, like Mr. Greg talking about his pro-life, our pro-life issues and stuff. We also need to understand that there's a whole new section of our community that needs to understand that there's a problem that we need to address. And you know, there's venues for our people to go to, but a lot of people don't know where to go. So sometimes even just a phone call can help. And like I said, you know, I'm just a phone call away. I mean, if you think that I may have an answer, even if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find the answer for you. And just that could, you know, help move somebody forward, right? So
And
sorry I went
no
off on
worries.
that, but
No, I appreciate that. People need to hear this, right?
Yes.
And so, Senor, I mean, she brought up a number of good points about, you know, there's a lot that we need to address, right, within our community, just with the children, just with children that are being neglected within the home or have no home, right, in broken homes. In your, if you become senator, what other things are that you want to prioritize? And it could be a number of things, Senor, but you only have 2 years, right, at least for the first term. And
We'll take it from there.
right.
Sure. I have to, before I even touch on what Donna Smith mentioned, she mentioned about her grandfather, and I must say this. I was honored to be a staff member with Senator Eddie Duenas when he introduced the bill naming Fort Juan Munoz for the first location for the Guam National Guard. And I'll tell you, we delve into the history, and my dad himself with the village mayors testified of what Colonel Juan Munoz in the handling of the Guam militia. Then I'll tell you, and of whole, you know, one of the leaders, and my dad was a member of the militia as well. But I'll tell you, in Jigo, they would talk about how leadership would come, and I personally have seen them. I've seen your grandfather at a young age when he came out to Jigo, but that's I have to say that. But
thank
anyway,
you, Uncle Greg. Thank you so much.
But the other thing too is you're way ahead of me, even my thoughts in the area of Poksai. You've got you and your family on the record of, and then on fostering. That in itself somehow picking up too from where my dad has helped out in Tamuning. Lord willing, we make it. We need to stand together. You take the lead. I'll tell you, we need to, because I agree with you. The numbers went up on the need for foster. And you know, we go back at a young age. The Chamorro tradition would be we would talk about what's the need, and I recall aunties would talk about to say there's something that's happening in our family. So and so is going to have a baby, and in my recollection, my cousin wasn't married, but no. The whole family just said, hey, listen, there's a need, and that's all I knew. And when the baby was born, became my niece, my nephew, whatever. I mean, at a young age, but we were taught that that's the family, the extended family was there.
Yeah.
So foster fostering, remember, it's a new thing. It's just come out in the last, maybe 30 years. And even then it was a small number. But you're right, Donna, it has grown. The need has grown. And thank you for bringing that up. That's we need to honor that's the character of the Chamorro family.
Yes.
Either we're family or we're not. And that's what we have to do, is really look at what is it that was done before. And let's grab a hold of that. Let's take the example that was just brought up here, and not because only Donna was here, but I've known this one, that the Mulia families have led in this direction. But in the other things to do, here's where we now need to then, while we do the feeding, for instance, and the homeless, look at how is it that that as we begin to look at solving that situation that's come up on homelessness.
Okay.
But just before that, we need to put the attention to this vital area of keeping the children, and you mentioned it there, Pauly, keeping them in the family.
Okay.
And by the way, when Senator Tina champions also that part of it, I want you to know that both of them, Donna, both aspects are part of the culture. It's that culture where you look at the immediate intimacy of the family holding on, but at the same time we need to provide and adopt, because in my ministry pertaining to those that are in drugs and coming out of incarceration, many families already are so broken that they can't even take our guys coming out of prison. So imagine that, if they can't even take a grown man coming out of prison, we have to find a shelter for them, because they won't release them to homelessness. They got to have a place to stay, otherwise they stay in prison. So here it is. That's the need for the grown-up men, but the need has to be called to the attention of children.
Babies.
There you go. The most vulnerable right now, and Donna Sigate, just keep on looking at that attention, and we'll come alongside with you on that one.
Thank you.
We need to do that. We need to do that. Thank you.
Because I'm not trying to make a statement that other things aren't important. However, we're not really addressing that, right? On a legislative level. And we continue to introduce bill after bill after bill on some other things that we need to look into, for sure. But I mean, all things are important. But when you're looking at neglected children, that's not being addressed effectively.
Oh yeah, and I mean, check this out, Pauly. Not only are there abandoned children, and there's a lot of abandoned homes that are just rotting away, and it can't be taken care of because the law doesn't permit them to, to give it to like a grandmother taking care of grandchildren because their parents are incarcerated, right? They can't do anything because the law doesn't allow them to. So there's so many other things in the community that people aren't aware of, but we each have to take the time to figure out what's important. I mean, I know right now, like I wanted to get into, and I don't mean to veer off the subject, but I wanted to get into sort of like growing the middle class, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I wanted to get into like, what would I want to champion if I got in here to help move our island forward? It's all connected.
A strong family stays together.
I've been selling cars for the last 42 years and providing transportation. I don't call it selling cars. I say providing transportation to our island people, right? And it's wherever you're from, right? And here's this. It's not a luxury on Guam. It's a necessity to have valid transportation. I want to grow the mass transit system on Guam. It's not called Guam Mass Transit anymore. It's called Guam Regional Transportation Authority. And there's a lot of good guys there working now. I mean, really trying to push. There's Tyrone, and I know Dr. Uggins there, and I'm Tyrone. We just did the ribbon cutting and for the ride. You heard about it, right? Park and Ride, right? And I thought, oh my God, it's gonna come. We're gonna get it, right? And here's what it is: if we can build a mass transit system that can mirror like Honolulu or Korea or Japan or Europe or anywhere else, can you imagine what it'd do to grow the middle class? Here, I'll give you an example. People can get to school on time. People can get to work on time. Not everybody can afford monthly payments on a car, which is now what, $400, $500, $600, $700, insurance, gas. But can you imagine if we had a mass transit system that just doesn't take care of the central part of the island, but takes care of the whole island of Guam, north, south, east, west? Can you imagine catching a bus from Jigo to Malesu? Think about it, right? And everybody thinks, oh, we're only 32 miles in length and 8 miles in width, right? Basically. But it takes a long time if you don't have a car. And you can't walk that, right? And so can you imagine if we had a mass transit system that can take care of our families, people get to their jobs, they get paid, they don't have the money to buy a car, but they can catch a bus. But they can put money in their pockets, take care of their families. And you imagine, right, they grow, and then they can afford the cars because they get to their jobs on time and stuff like that. Too many times I've heard, sorry, I can't get there because I don't have a car. Or just imagine this one family that there's 5 families in one family, so they're taking care of 10 people. They buy one car, and one person's job is to get all of those people to go from, to just go, let's say, from Derrida to Hagåtña to Asin to the port to, there's no mass transit system that can take care of it. There's Stro Guam, but there's no real Uber system and just imagine, it's there. We can do it. We have the people in place that can do it. There's just not a lot of attention at it. But I do want to add, along with that, so let's say we go through this whole system. I want to make sure that there's a law in place that tells the agency that or the RFP that says, listen, along with this funding, you have to have a maintenance contract in the RFP, so that if we build this mass transit system, there always will be funding for the maintenance part, because you can buy a new car, but if you don't know how to service it, you don't know how to take care of it, it's only going to last you for this amount of years. But we want this system to last forever, so that our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren can take advantage. If it's being done in Honolulu, if it's being done in San Jose or anywhere else around the world, we can definitely do it here. And you know what, Guam, we are where America's day begins. They should be taking notes from us. Why can't we do it? Is it possible? Of course it is. Anything is possible with God, right? But we can do it. We can move this island forward. But we just have to tweak a little, right? We just have to change that.
All economies have a
stable transportation system. And real quick story, my cousin Dominic was the director 20 years, a deputy director 20 years, and I went, oh my God, the bus stops are going up. I'm not going to have a job because Dominic's going to, it was then Tony Martinez at the time, and Dominic, I said, the mass transit system's coming to Guam. Oh, I'm selling cars. I'm not going to have a job. But when they deployed him to DPW, I said, good, now I have a job. But that's the kid in me, right? That was the kid in me. Right. But I knew back then, 30, 40 years ago, that Guam needed a mass transit system. And I always wondered, how come? And then I thought, Donna, you can champion that. You can be the one to say, hey, look, everybody, this is important. We don't need it to be this little, agency here. We need it to be this mass agency so that everybody on Guam can take advantage of it. So those are just some of the things I want to get through. It's like a domino effect. We take care of one thing, we can take care of another. We take care of another thing. It's just us taking care of each other. Right. But then we all got to work together. We cannot have bickering. We can't.
So it sounds like you've already mentioned people on the other side, on the Democrat side, right? Yeah. I mean, you already said very kind things about Miss Donna Muñoz-Canata, to Lennon Nelson, that you want to work with. And so I imagine that's what you want to bring to the table too, to the 39th, is working together. Of course. Yeah?
Yes. When I was a staffer, as a matter of fact, there's the real quick background on that one. I coordinated the might be five or six, Republican senatorial campaigns where we got the majority. And so I had to work with Republican senators, candidates. When we became the majority, one of the first things that we had to do was the senators I worked for always had the understanding that even though we have the majority, we need every single vote that can be made. At that time, it was 21 senators. We need everyone on the floor. And I'll tell you, we had some Republican caucuses, of course, and the same thing, the Democratic Party. But what I saw was a lot of working back then. Of course, I'm not seeing it as much now, but back then, I, as a staffer, I had to be friendly to everybody. It wasn't just to the speaker and his staff. It was to everybody, because when Senator Duenas, when Tony Palomo, when James Underwood, when Connie Barrett, and the other senators that I worked for, when they introduced a bill, one of the first things was, Greg, let's walk around. That's what we did. And, of course, I would go with them to the Republican meetings on it. But when we walked around, we didn't take, let's do the Republicans first. They went to, okay, who was next door? And we went to that senator first, and we just went around to everybody. And that was why Senator Duenas had a lot of bills that became public law. The Division of Senior Citizens, the Department of Youth Affairs, the strengthening of the Mayor's Council. I mean, those were all, of course, Dad had part of that as well. But I got to mention that when you mentioned about the Guam mass transit system. Back after World War II, Dad was the first guy who worked on what was known as the Guam bus line.
Wow.
Major Baker, the Marine guy, received permission from General Larson, get something that, get a weapons carrier, no, not a weapons carrier, it was a trailer, and put a railing around it, and go around there. And at that time, they could only go up to Umatic. And then they can't, because they couldn't go around the big trailers cannot go around those. So he would do that then all the way up to Jigo. And everywhere, Major Baker says, Greg, you're the bus boy. It's not free. Charge 1 penny. So he would charge a penny. But of course, he told me later on, he says, but when the girls came, he let them get on free. So anyway, so Major Baker, the Guam bus line, that was the original thing. So Senator Duenas knew about that, and one of the things we talked about was one day to make a connection. And thank you, Don, for even making connections to the Guam mass transit system. And so we need to do that. But anyway, thank you so much for that one. But
Sure, yes.
and just a note when you mentioned about putting so many things, and you're right. What I've been seeing, and I've had the honor of working with senators that just said, speak your mind, and when you get the input from constituents. And so when Donna mentioned about listening to people, Lord willing, that's what we have to do. Because if we don't listen, then we're useless. Because what's happening is if a constituent comes in, even if we don't solve everything right away, but keep doing something somewhere along the line, so that eventually the goal would be there. And so constituents, and so this ties in with what you just said, Pauly, about what is it then, why we have to be very careful about distractions. And so I base one more thing in everything that we're doing in this one. Every subject, everything that is what's known as a crisis, or even on the inputs, we've got to ask ourselves, what is the truth? What is the truth to what we're doing? And that truth, I have to say, is measured in a person. It cannot be my own concept. Oh, this is Greg Calvin's truth. No, what's the truth that can be the same truth to Donna Muñoz Quinata when she becomes a senator? What's the truth to whoever's going to become the governor, lieutenant governor, to other senators? What is the truth that we can all say, these are the facts based on the truth, so that truth then can come out to us equally and say, let's address everything here with the range of the truth. And that's what, Donna, you've been mentioning, and I give God the glory.
Ryan was concerned early on that he's frustrated with all the dog and pony shows that are happening in the legislature. He just said that, right, Ryan? Yeah. And so he just wants that to end, and just let's get to what you're saying, the truth.
I'll tell you, if Ryan were to say that and I was a staffer in the legislature, that would hit me personally for the senators that I work for.
Right.
So you're right. Ryan, it has to be, and by the way, that's the key. If staff don't tell the senators, nobody else will. Because we have advisors that are also either true advisor or just make-believe advisors. And I'll tell you, if we don't tell the truth to even our senators, then what good are we? And so that's what it is. And I'll tell you this, I have to also say one thing.
Yes, sir.
In the years that I worked in the legislature, I'll never forget this. I can always come, my wife's out there as a witness. She can count on the times when I was fired in the morning because I spoke the truth. And then I was hired in the afternoon. I never missed a day in the legislature. Never missed a day. I was hired by somebody that wanted that truth. And so, so through that one, 5 times the legislature voted down gambling. Those are critical issues. When those things come up, that's the one we have to address.
Sure.
But at the same time, the family as a family, we need to strengthen the family. And so what Don has brought up and what you've been bringing up as well, the BrightSide, those things, those strengthens the family. Because if we have the family, then we've got a basis for the economy. And then there are other things we can do.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's 4:44 in the afternoon. You can stick around, right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So
Yes.
we're just going to take a quick break.
Yeah.
I know I got to do another look at traffic, right? And then we'll continue our conversation with both of our candidates right here on Wave 105. So let's break out the handy-dandy glimpses of Guam Traffic app once again. And let's see if we can help you move forward on this Friday afternoon. Major congestion heading northbound between John F. Kennedy High School and St. John's School. I see major congestion inside Hamburger Road, so that is definitely not a shortcut to get over to Route 16, so just be aware of that. Route 16. And then Airport Road is also, East Sunset Boulevard is not a shortcut to get over to 1. That's major delays there. Route 8, you've got some mild congestion right around the Cañada intersection. But after that, as you continue northbound onto Route 8 towards the Tri-Intersection, doesn't look bad at all. In the capital, Hagåtña, I do see it is extremely slow on Marine Corps Drive until you pass Route 1 and Route 4 intersection by Chief Kapua Park. So if you want to take some of those side roads, Route 7A, to get over to Route 4, you could do that. You can bypass all of that major congestion there. Once again, helping you move forward on this Friday afternoon. It's Guam Auto Spot. Schedule a test drive today. Call them up, 478-AUTO. View their inventory on their website at guamautospot.com.
When families feel safe, communities grow stronger. Senator Chris Duenas passed the Malik Act to put more officers on our streets and confront the meth crisis hurting too many of our people. He led efforts to expand affordable housing through the additional dwelling unit and advanced nitrate bills. And now he is authoring his second balanced budget that protect essential services while supporting private sector jobs. Steady leadership, real results. Re-elect Chris Duenas. He's focused, balanced, and ready.
I'm Chris Duenas, and I approve this message.
Eat fresh in just a few clicks. Order online at SubwayPacific.com for pickup or delivery. Online ordering at SubwayPacific.com is powered by Good to Go. We deliver. At Subway, you gotta refresh to be fresh.
My name is Erica. My son, Kason, is a patient at Shriners Children. My oldest called me and said Kason got burnt. The trauma doctor came in and said he needs to go to Shriners.
His injury was a big injury, and I think a testament to the care that we provide. He's fully functional. He's riding his dirt bike, doing all of the things that you would want him to do.
We're just so thankful that Kason is still here.
Go online right now to loveshriners.org.
The road to Adelup is in full swing. We recently spoke with Democrat candidates Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio and Senator Tina Munilla Barnes to learn more about their vision for Guam. Catch the full conversation that took place on May 26th on the Wave 105's YouTube channel. This is a glimpse of Guam radio station.
Welcome back to the show, 4:47 in the afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Right now, we are in the middle of the segment called Beyond the Ballot, standing by the host of the BrightSide, Mr. Pauly Suba. Buenas.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Once again, we are here with Donna Muñoz Caneta, Senor Gregorio Salas Calvo, and we're talking about how they plan to work for the people of Guam in the 39th Guam legislature. Senor, is there anything that you want to talk about as far as the three pillars: public health, public education, public safety? These things, I mean, they're all real. Everything that we've been talking about so far is all connected to quality of life, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And those three, in all my legislative experience, when the legislature went into the number one priority duty and responsibility that belongs to the legislative branch is in the area of appropriations.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget how back in those days, back in those good old days, where the legislature did work in such a way that when they took Government of Guam appropriations, they took the first top three and they looked at our public safety, our public health, and then the education. And they actually prioritized the any type of adjustment to the races were based on those three areas. Everything else came from that. Once that was taken care of, because those were the priorities. The reason why is that well-being of the family at the basic units was first, and then we started doing other things that came in line. But the second thing I wanted to emphasize is the second, to me, all of the things that I've seen happen, and especially when it comes to the interaction with the executive branch. The legislature is the policy-making branch. That's inside the Constitution. It's inside our Organic Act. It's right there. The executive branch then executes, and then the judiciary adjudicates. We all know that that's what happens. But what happens is that when political parties get too strong and confront each other, there's not too much walking across. And I'll never forget, without naming that period of legislature, where I was the one that was sent by the Republican majority to walk over to the executive branch, because no senator wanted to go across to meet the governor. That was one of the most traumatic experiences I've ever had to endure. And yet I was just the messenger boy to set up the meeting. But the real way it's done is that the senators or the governor themselves go across to each other. I've never seen staff utilized in any other way. When it comes down to a senator picking up the phone, asking for the governor, I'll tell you, it really means something, or vice versa. The governor picking up the phone to call any senator, whether it be Republican or Democrat, very important, very important. So policy making, and that's why we have to come back to what's the truth. What is the truth? One day you see, Pauly, Donna, every one of us, one day we're going to really stand before him. We're going to stand before God that's going to make us accountable. So it's important that the relationships, we don't know where we're going. I tell people, I said, let's plan for the primary. We make it after August 1st, then we plan for the general. Let's take it one day at a time.
Right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, Auntie?
Pauly.
Public health, public safety, public health, public education, right? And so
there's so much I can talk about. But right now, so one of the other things I want to talk about, of course, is the hospital.
Okay.
My mom worked for the hospital 43 years. I grew up in the hospital, going with her all the time because we worked at the church, the chapel there.
Right.
But here's something. Guam needs a hospital, but our people deserve a state-of-the-art hospital. We need something to call our own, and we can make the new hospital like I used to call the University of Guam the gem in the Pacific, the gem in our backyard. Why can't we make another gem? There's different kinds of gems, right? Why can't we make the hospital one where we can bring all our kids back? There's so many local Chamorro doctors that are amazing, and we need their expertise back here. But they don't have a home. There are so many good employees at GMH, but the building's falling apart. I've been there in the last 2 years in the emergency room, and every single one of them works so hard, but the place is falling apart. We have the resources. We now have the land. We got the approval to move forward. Why are we bickering about it? Why is it that here we are, we have the opportunity, our island has the opportunity to build the best they could ever build, and they're bickering? No, let's move our island forward. But then I go back again, Pauly. It starts with us, every one of us. The bickering has to stop. And it's not, they're Republicans, we're Democrats, and we can't get along. Man, this work is not easy. I've told my husband that I have such a new, profound respect for everybody that does this work. I mean, because now's the time for me to travel, right? And see more of the world that I've not seen before. But there's a bigger calling here, and that calling is to make sure that I leave Guam the best place that I could be. I always tell everybody, Guam is where America's day begins, but it is a paradise. God gave us a little bit of heaven here. Why can't we take care of it? And it goes back to teaching our kids. When you talk about education, we need to build Salmon Sanchez. But that's bickering again. That's why we don't have it. But because things aren't signed at a particular office, or the law said, it's got to go through there. Let's try to work together so we can move Guam forward, build our hospital, build our schools. Don't close down classrooms. We can, use the classrooms. If there's not enough students, let's see what we can do to use it for something else. Like there was just a law that passed with the daycare centers for both the adults and what a wonderful idea. Can you imagine if the kids even have the opportunity to see what the adults can do? Uncle Greg just sitting here, I learned so much from him.
We always stayed at Grandma and Grandpa's house
anyways, right? And when you wanted to get good stuff, that's where you went.
You're going to Grandma and Grandpa's house.
Yeah, so when you're hungry.
It didn't seem strange to me at all.
Yeah.
And I understand that they did very good, hard work went into the rules and regulations.
Yes.
Because you do have to protect people from medication.
Of course.
Right, and all of that. And I saw that the work went into...
There was a lot of good work that went into that. But it took people to work together.
Right.
And Pauly, I believe in public-private partnership. The government, yes, provides the service, but we need to build the businesses too so that we can work together. We got to work together. Every one of us needs to put our share in. Because if we don't, then what are we, right? What do we have to show for our future generations, right? So it starts with me, it starts with us, and we got to work together. We need a hospital. We need our schools. We need mass transit system. We need to remember that we are answerable, not just to ourselves and to our parents, but we're answerable to somebody bigger than us. We're answerable to God, and we're here to do God's work. And, I said to myself, if I don't do the work, if I don't start to begin to do the work and lead by example, then how can I expect somebody else to do it? So if the people or the island of Guam wants a candidate that wants to work hard, is trustworthy, who understands what it needs to move us forward, then I'm your candidate. Please, please, please give me one of your precious gift of vote. I'm number 13 on the Democratic side of the ballot. But I promise you, Pauly, and I learned this from my father and my family, when the election is over, there is no such thing as Democrat or Republican. And my dad will tell everybody God gave me such an amazing set of parents.
Maybe they should move around the desks, right, Senor?
Put them in between.
There's no Republican, Democrat. However, the Republicans sit on this side, and the Democrats...
Hey, why don't you... That's a good idea, Pauly. Sit them right... Remember the teacher, the boy, girl, right?
Yeah.
So, but it starts with us, right? And we just got to get in there. Let us get in there. everybody has good ideas.
Right.
But if we don't work together, how are we going to move it forward?
Right. Senor, last question, and you take your time. We're kind of up against the clock, but we'll ignore it. KGUM FM in Dededo, Guam, because I really do appreciate all of your wisdom that you bring to the table, right? You have institutional knowledge, right? And so when we look at the whole makeup of what is happening here, right? And like Auntie Donna has said is there's no Democrat, there's no Republican. When we get in there, we're going to do the work of the people. And you've already touched on it as far as truth, right? And you also shared that appropriation to all of these government agencies. Yes. And so when you look at the budget right now, it's $1.4 billion. And I understand that it wasn't that when, however, a number of things are the reason. And so how do you see us balancing a budget that is the truth for so many?
Well, the very first thing that's been there for a long, long time that I just said we need to really look at it further is we tried to way back 20-some years ago look at the population of our island and look at comparable cities, towns, and counties across the nation. And even back then, it was just an initial. I was working in the Legislative Research Bureau, and just the initial look, we were already over budgeted. We were already doing things that in those states, their counties, cities, and towns were doing was government was there for the basic services, and then they would subcontract. It has taken a long, long time. It's only been in the construction industry that the government of Guam has understood what subcontracting is about. And the Department of Public Works was one of those departments. My dad worked there. He worked there. He was Guam's first heavy equipment operator. And one of the things that happens right there is that the naval governor that was appointed, all those governors, would bring in the Navy because civil service was already here. That would bring in the Navy to help jumpstart a lot of things. But one of the things that had to be done was then how to move on so that you take those basic things and then move on from there. And so among other areas to consider again is balancing it out so that as you're addressing it's on a broad front so that nobody gets so much attention and we have to face it because of the strong personalities on our island. Very strong, and we need strong leaders like this. We have governors that have taken a hold and championed certain things, and because that was their personality. But the intent was you also had staffers inside the executive branch, and I've been there where I've seen them in the executive office. The governor says, Governor, as you move up, that's why they're called policy advisors. We need to do this too. But one of the checks and balances there is somebody's got to also look at what the legislature determines is policy. And so policy comes through the executive branch by the implementation of that. Now, the governor has that authority to say, I'm going to declare emergency, I need something like that, but it has to be specific. Within 30 days, if it's going to continue, the legislature must step in. And that's where I think is that the legislature, in many ways, and I'm not very specific which one, sure. But the whole thing is in many ways have not looked at what's known as the periodic visits to the field, and that was what I was sent out to do oftentimes. We were the eyes and ears of senators, and we were the eyes and ears of senators on both parties. Because when we came into and the committees were convened, it was Republican and Democratic senators. And I'll tell you, that was how things were solved, so that we will never get caught with something that was kicked down the road to be. When I was a kid, that's what I played, and it was fun when I was a kid. But it's not fun when it involves real issues, real concerns, real needs, and real problems. We got to pick up the can and don't kick it down anymore.
And so understanding that you have so much institutional knowledge, but you are not an incumbent. And so in a lot of ways, both of you are new faces going into the legislature. And so it presents its own challenges, right? And so I wanted to just give you both the opportunity, and you kind of did already in closing, but that real push as to why it's important, not just yourself, but a new way of thinking if we want change. And you can close.
If we want real change, we need to change. So I'm asking, literally asking that we take a really good look at what we want to give back to our island, and not for us, but for our future generations. And we got to think outside the box. And I think that's what we're stuck at, is that we're too busy thinking my toys, your toys, or my side, your side, when it should be our side. And so for the people of Guam who are listening out there, I want to be able to push this island forward together. Let it start with us. Everyone has to put their share in. And please go out and vote. Sure. We have the early voting, which is an amazing tool that the Guam Election Commission has put together. It is so easy and so convenient, and they open from Tuesday to Saturday from 10 to 6. Please go out and vote. If you can't make it on August 1st, please, you got for the next until the 25th, I believe it is, right? Get out and vote, because if you don't vote, you can't complain. But if you vote, you use the right that was given to you to make a decision to move our island forward. Please, ladies and gentlemen, please, people of Guam, vote.
On the Democrat side,
number 13 on the Democrat side. Thank you, Pauly.
And
Thank you.
Senor, I also wanted to give you the opportunity to close, and then also the importance of, it's not easy for somebody to pick somebody that they don't necessarily. You're kind of the exception, because I believe many people know who you are, but and many people know who you are as well. So it's kind of you're both the exception. However, you're not incumbents. It is difficult to break in there, and understanding there are 6 vacancies, right? Because they're moving on to other offices, but there are other names like Telena Nelson, like Clint Rigel, like Luis Bora that are also vying, Will Castro, that are vying for these positions. So it's not going to come easy for a new person to get into the legislature. And so on that thought process, the importance of choosing you and a new voice to speak for the people of Guam.
Well, thank you, Pauly. And one of the first things I wanted to do was, if I may, just put my hand across to Donna. We'll shake right now, and we would vow that, Lord willing, we make it. We would take what we just said today and then carry it through so that we walk it out. And that's what we have to do, because, and again, there's been, in all the experiences that I've had, yes, political parties and strength are there, but I have not seen it where it made massive differences in particular things. As a matter of fact, when I think back of issues that were really of paramount importance to the island of Guam, both political parties took their rightful places. So, I mean, this is true. This is true. But when I look at this one, and I think back, when I look at the 15 senators, and by the way, we look back in this one, from my experiences, back then, the 21 senators, the chances of the constituents coming in, meeting somebody was very, in the 15th, I want you to know, I've never seen this. The last 24 years where we have 15 senators, a lot of people have actually given up on actually trying to meet a senator. So, I mean, that's a big thing to really understand. But the rationale is, at that time they were saying a smaller legislature because it'd be less cost. No. That wasn't the truth. So anyway, that's a sidelight. But let me close.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'll just close with this part in the when I looked at it, I said, you see, the Bible's very clear too. It is God who puts in authority, and it's God who takes out, removes from authority. So there are 5 vacancies I believe they're 5.
Sorry, I thought I said 6. Joe San Augustine, Tina Rose Munoz Barnes, Frank Bloss,
Tony
Atta. There's
Therese
Terlai, and
Sabina.
Sabina. So there
6.
are 6. Yeah.
6. Okay, there's 6. Then my thinking is this. That is, Lord, if I'm this way, I'm not coveting anybody's position.
Okay.
Lord, if those positions are open, then would you, in your infinite wisdom, do I have a place in that? So that's, and then take it from there. The incumbents, I pray the Lord's blessings on them, but they have an opportunity to do their own accountability. It's ongoing, and so that's their responsibility. And if if they fall short, then that's God's understanding. That's God's responsibility. And I agree with Donna. It's the voters then who take it from the Spirit of the Lord. What is it that the Lord has laid on them to be part of God's plan to do His will in this legislature, in the filling of the position for the governor, lieutenant governor, for the congressional rep, and all the other positions. That's what we have to do. So in any way, I'm only trying to bring that one, and I need to also make mention that, Pauly, well, you honor me on that one.
Yes, absolutely.
The thing about it is that I really, any type, I have experience, and maybe some areas that are giftings, but the wisdom, I have to say, comes from God. If I in any way touch on that wisdom, that's because I got it from Him. And that's the only way that I can ever pass on to that. And in the meantime, I fall short of God's glory too. So
wise, very wise words.
Amen.
And on the Republican side,
it's amazing. Number 13.
Number 13. There you go. Thank you so much for both coming.
Pauly.
This was such a great conversation.
Jordan, thank you, Donna.
Yes.
Thank you, Pauly.
And I wish you nothing but the best. You and your families as well. Because this is not easy for yourselves, and it's definitely not easy for your families.
Amen.
And so the work has just begun, right?
Thank you, Pauly.
All
And
right.
also
Thank you
thanks
for giving us
for Ryan as
and
well.
Ryan for calling us.
I'll tell you, and the background that this guy's got, I'll tell you, amazing.
All
Mercy,
right.
bro.
We are going to take the break, and we'll be right back. This is Wave 105.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Flash flooding has again hit the Texas Hill Country. Governor Greg Abbott says at least 2 people have died.
One is a male near Comfort who was swept away in an RV. Another is a female in Uvalde who was swept away while driving on a road.
Crews have rescued hundreds stranded in vehicles or trapped in homes.
There will be an ongoing risk of some tornadoes. 59 counties are in flood watch.
Close relatives of the ICE officer who fatally shot a Colombian man in Maine this week tell AP he's an Army veteran who struggled with serious mental health issues since childhood. Ashley Brulette is his ex-wife.
David's mental health played a part in what happened. I think what happened was he was standing there during that operation, had a PTSD moment and hit fight or flight mode. And unfortunately, a man lost his life due to it.
President Trump used a primetime address to again raise doubts about the results of past elections.
We still have a major challenge that must be urgently addressed because no country can be great without fair and honest elections.
Reviving a subject he's long used to make unproven claims and deny his loss in the 2020 election.
Every American deserves to know that when they cast their vote, that vote will be counted accurately in a system, and that is to make that system secure, one where cheating and interference are not just difficult, but virtually impossible. Unfortunately, the system we have today falls catastrophically short of that standard.
Trump says he's releasing previously classified documents related to the 2020 and 2018 elections. This is AP News. Got a cell phone? Watch out for texting thumb.
Texting and scrolling throughout the day can put pressure on the fingers with numbness and tingling. Dr. Eugene Tsai at Cedars-Sinai Orthopedics and Sports Medicine says it's okay if you have some discomfort while using the phone. as long as it quickly goes away after you're done. But
every time you use your phone, that pain or discomfort or numbness and tingling gets worse. That's a sure sign that a medical professional should take a closer look at things.
General stiffness, throbbing near the knuckle, or a clicking sensation when bending the thumb can lead to more serious issues, arthritis or carpal tunnel syndrome.
My key tips would be try to go for as light a phone as possible, as small a phone as possible.
He also recommends transitioning to voice-to-text inputs on the phone to give your fingers a break. I'm Ed Donahue.
More stories at apnews.com. I'm Ben Thomas. Thanks for listening.
5:12 in the afternoon, and once again, it's about that time we check out the roads of Guam as we help you move forward. Proudly being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. All right, let me see. You already know it's crunch time, so pretty much everywhere you go on Marine Drive, you're going to feel some slow-going traffic. And so, let me see here. Going to check out Route 8 at the Tri-intersection in Barragata. If you are headed up northbound from Route 8 to turn in, to actually connect yourself to Route 16, in front of that intersection there, the Tri-intersection, you're going to feel some slow-going traffic. Bumper to bumper, pretty much, headed up northbound. And then just some slight congestion if you're headed down southbound on that same intersection. If you are on Route 10 and you want to get on Route 8 or 16 at that stop, yeah, you're going to feel some slow-going traffic there. All I see is red lines. All right, moving right along, let's go to, let me see here. At the Harmon Loop intersection, northbound, Route 16, right in front of McDonald's. You're going to feel some major heavy congestion if you're on that intersection headed up northbound. And if you're coming off Route 27 on that same intersection, trying to get onto Route 16, slow-going traffic there, and then also southbound on that same intersection. And then I see a long line on Route 16. Yeah, when you're turning into Liguan, you're going to have some major congestion. It looks like it's really backed up, so yeah, just be patient there. And then headed off to the same route, to Route 16, trying to connect into Route 1, right in front of the Micronesia Mall. Major slow-going traffic there. Of course, that was your traffic, your look at traffic as we help you move forward. Probably being brought to you by Guam Auto Spot. Don't forget, you can check them out on their website or set up a test drive at GuamAutospot.com or give them a call at 478-AUTO. Going to take a short little break. When we come back, it's going to be the 5 o'clock hour of The Bright Side right here on Wave 105. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening. Introducing the all-new Subway Wraps. Now you can make any footlong a wrap. Light, delicious, and satisfying without weighing you down. Subway Wraps make fueling your day easier than ever with bold flavors and fresh ingredients. Try the cheesy garlic steak wrap today. Subway. Eat fresh, feel good.
Military officer, law enforcer, policymaker. Service has been the cornerstone of Congressman James Moylan's life. James Moylan swore to protect America as an officer in the United States Army. As a parole officer, James worked with families affected by substance abuse and domestic violence. He was elected to the 35th and 36th Guam legislatures, and now James Moylan represents Guam's needs in our nation's capital as a member of the United States Congress. Congressman Moylan has fought for more than $3 billion for Guam, including almost $1 billion in military construction and roads and law enforcement.